and welcome back, my fellow outcasts, misfits, and weirdos. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm your host, Delta, and my pronouns are Viva Vis. Demigender Awareness Day happened on the 15th, so in this episode I will go over some myths about demigenderness. But before I get into it, I have an announcement. I will go on a winter break. This is the last episode before my winter break. And I will be back on the 8th of January, but that episode will be pre-recorded. It's been recorded for a while, it's part of my backlog, so you won't hear a Happy New Year from me in that episode, but the episode after that will probably include that. Just think I'm saying Happy New Year because if you care enough about this podcast to listen, I care enough about you to say Happy New Year. So just imagine that I'm saying it, even though I've recorded the episode in like October. Let's get into the demigender myths. Myth number 1. Demigender people are either demi-boys or demi-girls. This is just classic exosexism, where people just think manhood and womanhood are the only valid options. And no, you can be demigender with any gender. You can literally be demi-agender, meaning that you're partially agender. You can be demi-androgyne. You can be demi-xenogender, which is what I am. You can be demi-apora gender. You can be demi-neutral. You can be demi-maverick. Every gender under the sun, and we all know now that it's not just boy and girl, has a demigender version of it. So if you talk about demigender people, you should not be only mentioning demi-boys and demi-girls, and if you're talking about specific demi-boys and demi-girls, you should say that and not just say demigender. Myth number 2. Demigender people are exactly half of a gender. I can see why people may think that, because demi, the prefix demi, does mean half. But that's not how it's defined in a lot of queer contexts. For example, demisexual also doesn't mean half-sexual. And demigender simply means being partially a gender. For example, if someone is demi-neutral, they may be 10% neutral, they may be 75% neutral, they may be 40% neutral, they may be 90% neutral. It can be any percentage if people even choose to do it by percentages. It doesn't have to mean exactly half. It can mean exactly half, but overall it just means partially being a gender. Myth number 3. The other part of the demigender is always agender or genderless. This is also obviously not true, because otherwise it wouldn't be a myth, but the part can literally be anything. For example, if someone is a demi-boy, the other part could be girl, the other part could be neutral, it could be xenogender, it could be any gender, it could technically even be another kind of manhood, boyhood, whatever. And for some people, it's nothing. It's not even agender or genderless, it's just nothing. I've seen quite a few people who just say, I have a partial gender, but I'm not partially agender. There's no rules to what the other part can be or has to be. Myth number 4. Demigender people are just spicy men or women. So this again ties into the first myth, which is the idea that demigender people are only demi-boys or demi-girls in the first place. Obviously that doesn't apply to literally any demigender person who is not a demi-boy or demi-girl like me. It's not that uncommon for people to be only partially male or female. And again, demi-boys and demi-girls are not trying to be special by using this label. They are just literally expressing their gender, and those are valid experiences of gender. Myth number 5. Demigender people are basically cis and trying to escape their privilege or oppression by identifying as demigender. Again, this is very much based on demi-boys and demi-girls, and is also based on a weird misconception that all demi-girls were assigned female at birth and are basically cis girls, and all demi-boys were assigned male at birth and are basically cis boys, which is very much not true. There are so many demi-girls who were assigned male at birth, or demi-boys who were assigned female at birth, that already falls apart when you consider that not every demi-boy or demi-girl identifies on the side of their assigned gender at birth, so to say. And even those who do, they are not doing this to escape privilege, which people say about like demi-boys who are AMAB. That's not why someone would use this term. It's not how it works, that people are escaping the responsibility of cis privilege or male privilege by identifying as a demi-boy who was AMAB or a demi-girl who was AFAB. And with demi-girls who were AFAB, they don't identify as demi-girls to escape their oppression or to gain privilege. Like, they don't gain any privilege by identifying as a genderqueer gender. They will be taken less seriously and experience more shit. That's literally what being genderqueer is, experiencing exosexism. And this has been all the demigender myths. And I hope every demigender person had a nice Demigender Awareness Day, and I wish everyone who listens to this some lovely holidays. If you don't celebrate any holidays, I still hope you have a lovely time, and you will hear from me on the 8th of January. There might be a bonus episode on Patreon between now and when I come back, but until then, you can always share this podcast with your friends or on social media or with anyone who you think may be interested in this kind of thing. And otherwise, if you want to support me on Patreon or follow me on social media, send me anonymous voice messages, join the Outcast Discord, read the podcast transcript, send me anonymous questions, or send me a voice message, you can do all of that with the link in the description of this episode. Thank you so much for listening, and until next year, stay safe.